Welcome back to the Trailer Footers Toolbox. In our last episode we had a look at how we can get information on the vehicle before we start to inspect it. You'd have already started to build up a picture, looking at the vehicle, the impressions of what you're getting and what condition it's in. These details we'll cover, but the first thing we're going to do is look at two very important aspects of a Defender. One of those is the bulkhead and the other is the chassis. Ideally, you'll be looking for something that would have a pristine bulkhead like this one. But in reality, you might find something like this, or like this, or even worse still. So it's worth inspecting a few areas first. I'm sure you can find a horror story in just about every Land Rover. As we all know, each Land Rover has a story to tell of its own. Looking at the footwell first of all, we can see this one's got a large lump of silicone and it's had a welded plate on it. Some of the horror will be hidden by the wings, and you can see at the bottom here the footwell it's rotted through. Same on the other side, but also the door pillar seam has rotted through and it's split, you can see that. Bulkhead corners are also a favourite place to rot out. This example here will show you exactly how it rots. Probably realise that I'm actually jumping between two Land Rovers here. We're looking a bit closer at the bulkhead at the top here. This has had fiberglass stuck into it, so that's rotten. And one of the horrors also is filler that's covering up some rot, and you can see this is not actually metal, it's P38 or something similar. But if I stop the video just here and I point to that, you can see there's corrosion, and this is something to look out for as well. Darker patch of rust will show that there's actually water that's been running through here, and it's worth investigating to see where the water's coming from. And to me that actually looks like a crack. I'm also wondering if that isn't wheat that's growing in the footwell there. So it looks like this poor old girl's had a bit of a hard life. This is all repairable or replaceable, so we won't be giving up on this old girl just yet. Land Rover, the chassis is bladder frame, and that is what the backbone of this vehicle actually is. The unfortunate part is actually made of steel, so it will corrode, even with the best attempts to wax oil it. You see here, this is actually a nice chassis that's been wax oiled, not heavily wax oiled. The chassis will eventually corrode right the way through, and the most vulnerable areas are the outriggers and the rear of the chassis. Okay, so you've got outriggers here. This was the bulkhead and the body outriggers. You have, that's both sides. This one here, okay, so on the rear, you get orientation of where that is. They get sprayed by water and they're the thinnest part of the chassis. Now the other most vulnerable part, where it traps water, that's on the rear of the vehicle, the crossmembers. Looking just up in here, you could actually push your fingers through that corrosion. There's no real way to beat corrosion other than getting a galvanised chassis, and our little project here has a galvanised chassis. Now you can see that it's not rotten. The rear end is quite solid and handsome still. The one thing that is a letdown from the part of the owner is that it's still covered in mud, and I would walk away from this vehicle right now. The reason being is that mud can so easily hide crimes like this, or even this. Nothing's lost when it comes to a steel chassis because there are parts available if you can weld. You've got outriggers and bulkhead fittings. Much depends on how much you want to invest in a project. I've been given the reassurance that the chassis will be washed when I come back. For you to really invest in a project, a galvanised chassis is the best way to go. So you found a tatty vehicle with a galvanised chassis, it's worth its own weight. As long as I'm happy with the chassis, I then want to hot wash it like what I do with these goods vehicle trailers. Apparently, galvanised chassis have a working life of about 40 years before they start to corrode, so we're looking good here. Land Rovers can have accidents, sometimes they do. You see by the damage on this one. One other factor to consider is the possibility of having a bent chassis. Some vehicles are sold in auctions as damage repairables, either Cat Ds or Cat Cs. It's worth noting that some vehicles will be put back on the road. Some might not make it back in their original form, however. A good indication if the chassis is bent, the vehicle could crab down the road, so it's worth having a look around the vehicle to see if anything's out of place. You can check the tyres as well to see if they're badly worn on the corners, as though the tracking was out. The rear axle tyres can give this away because they don't have to be tracked up. Okay, so carrying on with the inspection of this Shire horse that we have. Plenty of scuffs, plenty of scratches, so she's been in some scrapes and adventures. We're going to have to check the condition, not for dents and scratches, but more corrosion. Under the seats you're going to find yet more steel which can corrode. This is the seat box arrangement. And one of these lockers, if you like, is the battery box. You can see this one's completely corroded away. Looking at this is the construction of what you'd see from underneath. And this part here is actually the battery box itself. Something to keep in mind on. This one is made of stainless steel, and this is Mario's pride and joy, fabricated himself. We're going to have a look at this, starting with the doors, see how loose they are. You can see this, the hinges are loose. If there's a problem there, yes there is. Also the back doors, they corrode on the frame. It always pays dividends to look at the frame at the bottom of the door. Worth looking at the hinges too, up on the top here, these are original. On the other driver's door, this one's actually badly corroded as well, down on the frame. It's not loose, however. There's a check strap here. Details like this is worth paying attention to. You may find a single piece door, like on this Defender here. This will have a door trim, and that may well conceal corrosion. Whereas the two-piece door is a little bit more honest, and you can look very clearly to see what's missing or whether it's got damage. This one has a loose hinge, however it's in good condition looking at the frame. Whereas this one down here is already corroded. Defender doors are not the best made, and they don't click, clunk, shut like a BMW. They should shut and be secure. You could be fortunate enough to find second-hand doors in good condition. Failing that, paddock spares and accessories do a fair range. And there are plenty of suppliers on the internet, so we can decide how we're going to approach this project if we buy it. We have the door tops, the door bottoms, one-piece doors if we like, a glazed rear door, which isn't too bad in price compared to some vehicles. We also have all the fittings available to us to make a good job of this. Certainly are a lot of features with this particular vehicle to give it character. Some of them that can be altered and some of them we can just leave. Bonus here is this earlier Defender has galvanised cappings on it, which is very attractive. It also has a galvanised window frame, although the window sill rubbers are actually split. As far as the bodywork's concerned, most things can be replaced and then painted. This example of what Mario's got is a prime example of a vehicle that wants to be loved, wants to be looked after, restored so it can be washed and be part of the family and driven about.